Hey guys, Buckeye Bar guys. We wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to us here on Buckeye Bar Talk. Great show we got coming up today. We're really looking forward to you guys listening and watching it. But just wanted to remind everybody, just remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the all notifications bell, and that way, anytime a new show comes up, you guys will be alerted to it. And don't forget to like the video and comment on the video. All interactions with us helps us continue to grow, and we appreciate your support. Now to the show. Welcome back, everybody, to Buckeye Bar Guys here on Buckeye Bar Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm John.
And tonight's date is Friday, January 20th, 2023. And the offseason has officially begun here in college football. So we'll be going over a few things tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about the Georgia beatdown of TCU that has, because after watching that game, you'd think that Ohio State probably missed a golden opportunity to win a national championship. So we'll discuss that. Then we'll talk about Brian Hartline's promotion. And then we'll go into some of the stuff, some of the players that are leaving and staying, as we got pretty much, I believe all the announcements have now come out. So, and that'll pretty much be the show tonight. So Georgia. So yeah, Ohio State loses by a point to Georgia. TCU beats Michigan, and then Georgia just absolutely destroys TCU. I mean,
it's 58 points is what they beat.
So I mean, it's like people forget now about the 2006 Ohio State.
I highly doubt they're going to forget about the Ohio State games. Unfortunately, TCU does not have the name recognition or the cachet of Ohio State football. So Ohio State getting drubbed in national title games is still going to be reminded to everybody.
I will at least remember that TCU.
I remember TCU is the worst title game of all time.
No, I mean, we talked about this at different points since the game has since the game's been over. But like, I don't think I would have thought that we would have beat TCU 65-7. Mm-hmm. But would we have beat them 50-25?
I mean, I do think so. I think it's going to be somewhere in that range, because after a point, TCU can only just chuck the ball downfield.
Yeah.
And you normally, for normal people, you feel good in situations like that. But for Ohio State fans, what does that mean when you back someone up to a situation where they just got to chuck the ball downfield? Is that good? Is that bad? You're probably ahead by enough that it doesn't matter. And obviously you can move the ball at will, that you're going to keep scoring on these guys. But TCU would have got some points because they would have just thrown the ball down. Yeah. And someone would have fallen or missed their assignment, missed a tackle, missed an angle, whatever it is.
I mean, in that Georgia game, I could arguably say that, I felt our offensive line beat their defensive line for the game, and I felt like, probably, in my biased opinion, I think our defensive line slightly beat their offensive line, but I could give that easily a push. This game against TCU, this was just and that's where the game, they were so outmatched in the trenches, and they just couldn't get anything going. And, they would have been outmatched in the trenches against us. They would have got no pass rush on Stroud and at all. And, Stetson, and granted, Stetson Bennett is a better college quarterback than, I've given him credit over the years, but he's not Stroud in my opinion. And he torched them. He was picking them apart. So it's just like, this was definitely a golden opportunity. I know you can't take one situation and put it into the next situation and everything is always equal, but we would have beat TCU. We would have won the national championship.
Oh yeah, we would have won easily. Ohio State was gift wrapped. I don't want to say gift wrapped. They played with Georgia. They were beating Georgia on their merits. It wasn't Georgia mistakes. And that's what that drove me insane. People were like, oh, Georgia C game was still good enough to beat Ohio State's A game. No, if you came with your C game, you would have lost that game by like 20, 30 points.
Yeah. I thought Georgia played really well in that game
against Ohio State.
Yeah, Georgia did really well. I mean, at lesser teams at a couple points in that game would have, I mean, at two different points in that game, Ohio State was blowing them out, and a lesser team would have folded at that
Folded,
point.
right. Yeah.
Like TCU did in this game.
I, I feel like I watched almost every score of the game, but it was just so bad. I was like, I was not invested in the game whatsoever. I was flipping between channels, playing with the kids, putting the kids to bed. It got so embarrassing. I mean, I think they make it 10-7 or something like that.
Yeah.
Then it was like what is that movie? The Great White Hype, when Damon Wayans gets punched in the mouth by, I can't even think of the boxer's name. I remember he has an overpowering overhand right, and that's his whole shtick, and he's going to beat Damon Wayans because of it. And he punches him one time in the first round. He goes, "Are you trying to embarrass me?" And Damon Wayans just kicks his ass and knocks him out within the next 15 seconds. I mean, I felt like that's how it was for Georgia. Like, TCU scored that one time, and Curry was like, "Are you trying to embarrass me?" And then from there, I mean, and I don't know what Sonny Dykes has ever done to Kirby Smart, because I mean, you could have probably got through the whole second half and just kicked a field goal and been happy winning 41-7, but no, no. He took it to TCU.
Yeah, I turned it off at halftime, and like I watched some other stuff, and then I was kind of following along on Twitter, and I just keep on seeing like Georgia's keep on scoring and scoring, and then like I think I like on Twitter saw that they scored like two more touchdowns, and I'm just like, my God, it's like, is he gonna call off the dogs now? And then find out the next morning that no, he didn't call off the dogs.
I feel like he brought in the second stringers, third stringers. I think it was like 5 minutes left in the game, and they scored.
Like when I saw that he went for like a 4th and 5 and stuff, I'm just like, what an a-hole. But whatever, I'm okay with it. I mean, in hindsight now, being what it is that, I mean, everybody can argue about playoffs this and playoffs that, and who deserves it and who doesn't deserve it. But it was BS. Ohio State got 4, and I know some people took. I made that comment on Facebook or on Twitter, and there was like one or two people that took offense to that. They just came onto our feed for like just to let me know that Ohio State wasn't playing in the final weekend. Like, even though I've said a gazillion times that I've seen contradiction after contradiction after contradiction by this committee since 2014, but I have never once ever heard them say that making it into conference championship weekend was a plus. Like, you have to win your conference championship, and that's only counted for you if a couple things are if things are considered equal with other teams. So like, TCU didn't deserve to be. I mean, honestly, they didn't deserve to be in the playoffs. Like,
Well,
I mean,
no, and I think that's the argument right there, is Alabama deserved to be in the playoffs.
like, Alabama, yeah, you can say they had 2 losses and stuff like that. And and as an Ohio State fan, the spiteful a-hole Ohio State fan that I am, like, I was happy Bama was left out because we were left out in 2017, even though I felt like we deserved in, and we won the conference championship. So we even had a better resume than Alabama did this year, but they gave it to them. They only had 1 loss. We had 2 losses. So the spiteful part of me was like, yeah, okay, yeah, good. Leave them out. That's what they did to us. But the other side of me was like, they are better than TCU. Like, and that I think this should be the 4 best teams. And Georgia, Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State. That would have been a great playoff. And and the semifinals were a great playoff. I mean, the Michigan TCU game was fun. I still don't know how Michigan lost to that team that we saw national championship, but it was like the semifinals were great and the championship was bad. I mean, I know we've had some bad championships too, but normally it's the other way around. If you get a good game, it's normally in the championship, and the semifinals are normally been crap. And
I feel like the only bad championship games have been the Ohio State ones.
Yeah.
LSU,
the LSU
19 blew Clemson now. Oh yeah, and Clemson blew out Alabama in 18. So
yeah,
there've been a couple out there.
Yeah. So I mean, But yeah, it was just a bad game. And that, I mean, talk about a golden opportunity to have an all Big Ten national championship too. I mean, there's no, I don't know how the hell Michigan lost to that team. And honestly, we should have beat Georgia. I mean, I know they came back, but we should have beat them.
But I don't want to lose sight of this because I know you're saying like TCU shouldn't have been third. They lost that last week. On paper, they're not as good as Ohio State. On film, they're not as good as Ohio State. So just because they got to play one extra game that they lost, we're not going to, you shouldn't be giving them the benefit of that doubt.
Yeah.
They lost the game, like to a worse opponent than what Ohio State lost to. So TCU should have fallen back. And Ohio State's still, really good on paper. They got a great offense. It's dynamic. Of course, by the end of the year, nowhere near what it was at the beginning of the year because, let's face it, they had a ton of injuries on offense. However, with that being said, your best bet to a national title was still always going to be you get a month to prepare for Georgia, and then you've already prepared once for Michigan for this season, and you get them or the weak TCU team and you beat them in the national title.
Yeah.
That was always the best chance because if Georgia got, some warm-up game against TCU where they absolutely shelled them, maybe they're looking down on Ohio State, but that warms them up for that other championship game. They probably don't have to use a lot of resources to win that game. You probably pull your starters much earlier, keep them much healthier. Ohio State, Michigan are going to play a 4-quarter game in their semifinal. So the best chance for the national title, in my opinion, was always Ohio State get 4, get Georgia first, and then go beat Michigan in the national title game or TCU because TCU was the first team out of the 4.
I mean, I agree with that. And, in general, the only pushback I would give is that, Marvin Harrison is still, going to be playing against Georgia, and Georgia could not cover him worth of anything. And what if he doesn't get hurt in the national championship? I mean, if he doesn't get hurt in the semifinals, I mean, Ohio State wins that game. I mean,
and who knows? I mean, exactly. And who knows? Miyan has an extra 10 days then to get that ankle healthy. Maybe he can give a little bit more against Georgia than 2-3 plays, even though, I mean, I know he only had 3 plays, but I think he picked up a first down and he bullies him in for a touchdown. I mean,
yeah.
Short little Miyan Williams ran over Georgia's defensive line to get into the end zone.
And I think Georgia might have been, Ohio State would have had a much less opportunity to prepare for Georgia if they played them in the national championship game. But I still don't think Ohio State's offensive line, looks bad. I still think they handled. I mean,
yeah, sure. I think they can. I don't necessarily think that there's parts that outside of just being prepared for Georgia secondary, what you want to do. I still think your offensive line can handle Jalen Carter. Jaden Carter.
Something like one of them.
He's good, but he wasn't that effective against Ohio State. So should have been a layup for a national title. You were up 14 points in the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
Had to find a way to beat Georgia, but you were so hurt. I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's one of those times that this isn't a knock on Ryan Day. I just feel like if that was the case, Urban Meyer would have just been like, you got to dig deeper than you've ever dug in your life. You got to find a way to get one more touchdown. Yeah. You hit them at, as hard as you can for the next 10 minutes. You run as fast as you can for the next 10 minutes. And I think he could have motivated the guys to do that. And that's not saying Day didn't say that. I don't know what the hell Day said. Day was very animated in that game. He was very enthusiastic. He was a great coach, and I think the players fed off of it. So I'm not trying to take shots at him. I just wish, there was a way up 14 they could have closed that game out.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, we only have one more year of the 14 playoff, and then it goes to 12. I think this year would have been a good 12-team playoff. I think going forward, we're
interesting. Sure. Yeah.
I think going forward, I think we're going to have, some better playoffs than a lot of people think. And everybody's saying, people say, 12-team playoffs going to be bad. I mean, I think there's more. I think the top teams are the top teams, but I think that there's some decent parity around there. And I think, like you see it in the NFL, like when, a team plays, take Buffalo, Miami last week. Miami's played Buffalo twice this year. Two is out in the game, but they're supposed to. I think there was like a 10-point. They were a 10-point underdog, and they played the game really close. Well, because they
Yeah.
saw them twice. I mean, you're going to get into situations like that in the playoffs. I mean, if Georgia plays Tennessee, and I don't know where everybody was, but if Georgia plays Tennessee, say in the second round or whatever like that, who's to say Tennessee couldn't beat them this time around or give them a much better game? I mean, they saw them once, they prepared for them, they saw how Georgia, attacked them. I mean, it's a different situation. You never know and stuff like that. And that's what I think that's the differences in a 12-team playoff that you could possibly see is that you're going to get rematches, that from teams that you played. I mean, and we've seen that, when Alabama beat Georgia, or Georgia last year, and then Georgia beats Alabama in the national championship. So that happens. That you see a team differently the second time around when you see them.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree with that. I think it's good for the sport. I mean, I go back and forth, like how many teams realistically can win a national title, but like you said, you're going to get more opportunities for teams to lose. And I know there's some SEC purist bias out there that they don't want to see SEC teams with more chances to lose. But I mean, granted, they're going to get 2 to 3 more SEC teams in the playoffs anyways. You know that. So
Yeah.
good for them. But yeah, I mean, it was just, I don't know. It just seemed like a golden opportunity to win a national title this year.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. All right. So Brian Hartline, there was speculation that he was going to get the offensive coordinator's position. That is officially official. So he's offensive coordinator. We still haven't really heard whether he'll get any play calling duties or not. That's as we talked about, before that's, been that Ryan Day is considering it, but we'll see how that goes. I mean, I think it's a good move. I mean, obviously, Hartline has proven himself as a recruiter. He's proven himself as a coach, and I think it's a golden opportunity for him. I hope he's. I don't think the position will be too big for him. I mean, I know it's a big place to take on as offensive coordinator Ohio State, but I mean, he's worked himself up through the ranks. Other teams do it this way, where they let a coach, come up through their things. I mean, he started off as a GA, became a coach, and now he's an offensive coordinator. So it's reasonable. And yeah, I mean, if he has success at it, I'm not pushing Ryan Day out, but nobody knows what the future looks like. Maybe, everybody always talks about if Ryan Day would leave or whatever, that, is it Fickle? Is it Urban Meyer being brought back? Is it Mike Vrabel? Who knows? Maybe 4 or 5 years down the road, if the coaches are all the same. Maybe it's Brian Hartline if Ryan Day decides he wants to take a shot at the NFL or whatever, and if he's proven himself and they've won a title here, that maybe it's they gave Ryan Day the shot. Maybe that it would be his shot then at that. So you never know. It could possibly happen, and I look forward to seeing how he does. I really look forward to him in recruiting. Like, I know Ryan Day, no problem getting the quarterback. We're going to get the quarterbacks. But I really want to, now that you see how he's recruited wide receivers, and I don't expect that to drop at all, but I would like to see him. Let's see what he goes into. He gets to go into the room with, Tony Alford to try to seal up a deal, the top running back in the country, or the top tight end in the country, or the top left tackle in the country. I mean, he sold wide receivers to the program. Maybe he can start selling, some of the other spots too on the offense, and so that's what I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do there.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I want to see, how those recruiting chops go with the other positions. I mean, obviously he's going to be much more involved with all of that, especially if it's someone doesn't exactly have, the signature on paper that they're going to call in that offensive coordinator, call in the big guy Ryan Day, and they're going to, seal that together. So yeah, I'm very interested to see how he can do with the rest of the offense as well. Play calling, I kind of feel like it's going to be training wheels next year.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like maybe Day gives him a little bit of play calling duties in the first, couple of weeks because the competition isn't necessarily great. I don't see him really calling plays against like your Notre Dames, your Penn States, Michigan, Wisconsin. I mean, that the day is going to, you're at Camp Randall against Luke Fickell. Like, that's going to be really important for Day to win that game. So it's not an easy schedule. I mean, Purdue's in West Lafayette. So we're on the road against Purdue. Hopefully it's not like a night game, but we've lost day games there too. So I don't think it's going to be all right away, but I do think there's going to be some training wheel, some moments in games that Day will say, okay, Brian, maybe we're doing better against Purdue than that. Maybe we're up, 21 in the second half. You can call, the next couple series. Let's see how you do.
I agree with that. I think that's the way it should go. I mean, I hope it does go that way.
I'm interested to see someone call an offense though when he has like 20 guys to coach in his position group.
Like I want to see Ryan Day actually give them a chance to, in games that they should win, and then maybe games that they're up to give them some opportunities to call them, because give him a feel. If Dave's serious that he kind of wants to be more of a chief executive, then you got to start building him up. And so maybe it's not completely till the following season, but maybe if you start giving him some duties now where he is calling plays and you can evaluate him, then maybe the following season you feel more comfortable giving him the full gig. So, I mean, that's how I would attack it if I was Day. And, and honestly, and I think that's going to be a big thing for Day because, we've talked about in the past that we feel like he needs to do a better job at getting younger players into games when they're blowing out. So now he needs to give that opportunity to Hartline too at different spots into the season. And, that takes a big man. You gotta, I mean, these guys are all egotistical. I mean, nobody's going to say that they're not. And so, I mean, that takes a big, a big guy to really, say that, all right, I'm going to let you do some of this. I'm going to let you do some of the heavy lifting. We're only playing, and I forget their non-conference schedule outside of Notre Dame, but like we're only playing this team. Or
they got like Youngstown State and it's bad.
We're only playing Rutgers today. And, why don't we start off the game with you calling the games? Or, hey, we're up big against Indiana in the second half. I'm going to transfer over the play calling duties to you in the second half, and let's see how you do. And
that's week one. That's the first game.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe that happens. And they're up big against Indiana. They go out in the second half, and you're like, all right, you call the game. And maybe there's opportunities against a school like Michigan State where they've easily handled over the last several years that they can say that maybe he lets him call the Michigan State game to start and just be like, we've beaten this team pretty handily. We should be able to beat them. Let's let you call the game. And then if I got to come back in and take over, I will. It's no, but this is all evaluation. And that's what that's how I would treat it if I was Day with Hartline, is that, this is evaluation for you too. So I'm gonna give you some opportunities here to call plays and see what you got and see if how your feel for the game is. And like I said, that takes a big person to do something like that, especially if you consider going into next year. You could arguably make the argument that it's coming off his best called offensive game that Ryan Day's had in a long time, that from start to finish, that I mean he was on against Georgia. And
I agree.
So yeah,
100% agree. It'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I think Hartline deserves it. I mean, he's done very well here as as the wide receivers coach, and let's see what he's got to go to the next level.
Yeah, what I'm interested, I know Day likes passing, and I don't think Day would hide the fact that he likes passing. I think Day understands the importance of a balanced team, but I'm interested to see how they kind of marry their ideas together. Like, how do you keep this team balanced, that you're not just going to become, a pass happy team more so than you already are? I think they're both up for that challenge. I don't think either one of them is going to let their team just get like Texas football. So, and I mean like Texas high school or Big 12 football, however you want to word that. But I think they're going to do a good job keeping it how it is. But I'm interested to see how they get to that point.
Yeah. Um, and let's be honest, now you kind of look back in hindsight, honestly, our running game probably would have been different this year if they were healthier. I mean, if you think about it, both Miyan and Trey both got hurt fairly early in the season, and they were dealing with a lot coming down the stretch. I mean, they both tried to play how many times, and neither one of them seemed like they were, when you really think about it now, that there was a lot of games that they probably both should have just sat and not even try it.
Trey should have got his surgery probably right at the beginning, but I'm not going to judge him on that. I mean, it's going to be interesting because Kevin Wilson's, he's a zone running guy. Justin Fry he's a gap scheme type guy. He's a power runner.
And
So.
I felt like they were, I felt like they were a better running team this year when they were playing man-on-man football and playing more power runs than trying to do some of the zone stuff. So I might not necessarily be against, some of that being taken out of the, some of the stretch runs being taken out of. Obviously, you think we're going to have, regardless of the quarterback. I mean, I know Devin Brown's more of a runner, but McCourt can run. He is a runner. I mean, he has ran. So I think he's more comfortable running than Stroud was. So, I think that, regardless of which one's the starting quarterback next year, I don't think, I think some of that gets put back into the offense that, they're going to let them run it a little bit, especially if they can hold on to both of them where, Day might not even be, he might be a little less concerned about letting the quarterbacks run a little bit because you might have a competent backup behind him, even though technically he did this year, but that was not Stroud's game. Stroud didn't want to do it,
Right.
didn't feel comfortable with doing it until he did feel comfortable doing it. But, so I think that, I definitely would like to see if that's how Fry wants to run this offense, do the running game, let it happen because, this team is, I just think they were a much better team when they're just letting the offensive linemen, get up to second levels and, take on linebackers and opening up holes. And it seemed like both running backs felt more comfortable doing it that way. Neither one of them felt that great, doing the stretch runs, that I just don't know if the blocking just was not right or if they were, I mean, because you got to kind of slow some stuff down. Maybe they weren't slowing down enough or they were going too fast. I mean, I don't know. And it just seemed like that those runs just always went for a loss.
They didn't always go for a loss, but they weren't the most successful. That's for sure.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting with Hartline. Definitely look forward to seeing where that goes. Alrighty, players. So, CJ Stroud, no surprise, he declared for the draft.
Top 5 pick, most likely until they start the BS, that he's lazy and doesn't. Whatever I heard with Haskins and Fields that took him out of the top 5. So don't listen to that. Watch the film. CJ Stroud is an NFL quarterback. He showed against Georgia that he's willing, when he needs to, he'll run the ball. He'll put the team on his back. So draft him as high as possible.
Yeah. And I mean, his arm is,
his arm's elite. I mean, he doesn't have the downfield passing, maybe accuracy or want or strength as, let's say, Justin Fields, but I don't know if I've seen a guy, at least in Ohio State uniform, that can make every single drop in a basket throw like he can. I mean, it's just insane how he throws the ball.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing he needs to work on is that, obviously just to be a little bit more aware to take yards when you can get yards, but that's not as big as an emphasis in the NFL. So I mean, he'll feel a little bit more at home.
Taking the hit in the pocket as well, I think, is something he needs to work on. And I think his arm does bail him out, but there were a lot of times that he let his weight and momentum go away when he would feel that pressure coming. He would jump back and try to do it all with his arm. You're gonna get hit, man. Just step into it.
Yeah. And, last year he was better than he was this year with it, but I think and maybe he just felt more comfortable with the receivers last year that these guys are not going to necessarily be open. So like you're throwing where you expect the guy to be, not where he is.
But
So
he's the best Ohio State quarterback to ever do that.
yeah, and I agree with that. It seemed like he regressed a little bit this year on it, and like I said, it might be more because of the
thing of not having the same guys.
Yeah, so I mean that's how I feel too. Is that I just think that probably he just needs to work on that a little bit.
But if you hold the ball too long in the NFL, it's an interception, or
or you get killed.
Or you get killed. So you don't have the luxury of waiting for all that to develop in the NFL because your guy's always covered anyways.
Yeah, and you got to always remember. And I know that you think about guys like Chase Young and Nick Bosa, Myles Garrett, and those guys, but every team in the NFL has a good pass rusher.
Oh yeah,
and yeah, there's teams in college football you play that could not develop a pass rush whatsoever. Every team in the NFL, I don't care if it's the worst team in the league or the best team in the league, everybody's got somebody on that team, at least one, if not two or three, that can bring down hell against you.
We're Browns fans. I mean, the Browns only got one, but he's a hell of a one,
he's
probably, I mean, I think he had the best success rate and he gets double teamed every freaking play. So yeah, I mean, some people only got one, but some of them are really, really good.
Yeah. So that's one thing you got to remember is you're going to be going up against guys that could really rip your head off. So, find your guy open, know where you're throwing it to, and, do your best to look off a safety and be able to, speed your mental clock up, but they are coming. But, so he's leaving, Hickman's leaving, both our tackles are leaving, and Whippler's leaving. So that was pretty much what I would have expected. Cam Babb, I know, decided he's moving on. Baptiste transferred. And Cam Brown, of course, he was eligible. They all technically, I think every one of them.
Never heard anything about Proctor. I didn't hear anything about Proctor, so I don't know what's going on with him.
And Ransom decided to come back, right?
Ransom's coming back. Yeah, he didn't make a big deal. His dad just told the dispatch he was coming back. I mean, honestly, out of everyone that said they were going to the NFL, like the tackles, that's kind of what I always thought was weird about the tackle recruiting and how they approached the tackles and the portal this year was, I mean, I don't think nobody had a doubt that both those tackles were gone. Like,
no, especially, and I know
he's never going to go get a bad enough grade that he was going to come back again. Like, the guy's been pretty solid that he's a second or third rounder. Who knows how with that size and his speed, Dwan might end up a late first rounder.
Yeah. You knew Paris was going, but like for sure. But with Dwan, like you should have known definitely he was leaving about halfway through the year. I mean,
he just played so well this year.
Outside, he makes boo-boos on false starts and stuff like that, but the dude doesn't hold. Like he barely has any holding penalties, and when they actually let him go out and block, I mean, nobody can get around him. I mean, good luck. And when they actually let him run block, like real run block, and not do stupid stretch like zone blocking, like dude crushes people. Like.
No. Dwan needs to be meaner at the next level because you can see the greatness 60% of the time, but then there's some times where he's just like, oh, I'm a big body. Let me just push this guy a little bit. Yeah. And it's like, dude, crush somebody every single play. Like I've seen you at your best and no one can stop. I mean, remember the Maryland game? He's on his knees and he pancaked someone. Like,
yeah,
dude is a monster. He's a different type of dude. He's going to probably have to still lose a little bit more weight at the next level, get a little bit healthier, a little bit quicker. But he's really quick for the size he is, and he's so strong and he's so big. He's a mountain. So there was no chance you were getting either of those guys back. That's why you really had to do full court press on some big tackles this year, and they didn't. Disappointing. I kind of thought Whippler would come back, but I guess, he played really, really great against Georgia. And if it's a short, or not a great center class, now's the time to jump. Oh. I didn't come up with this. I don't remember who said it, but it's kind of funny how In 2018, Ohio State got the best center in the country, Matthew Jones. 2019, they got the best center in the country, Harry Miller. And then 2020, they got the first or second best center in the country, Luke Whippler, depending on, what service you were looking at. And it's like they're going to the NFL or finishing their careers kind of in reverse. That Luke's, he's 3 and done. Like, that's kind of crazy for a center, especially with what he had in front of him. Harry, of course, medically retired, but Matt Jones, surprisingly, is coming back for a 6th year, and he'll either be a center, he'll get a center, and he'll be a guard again. So, which that was a huge pickup or huge keep for Ohio State.
No, definitely. And it seems like this kid that they picked up in the transfer portal, even though he played tackle, that he might actually, from what you were talking about earlier, that he might actually fit better at guard or center, if he could play center. But
he's not very tall. He doesn't have a tackle body. He's like 6'2", 6'3".
I just don't get, I get it why they missed out on some tackles in the recruiting class. It's Fry's first year. I get all that, hopefully he does better in this next recruiting cycle. He wasn't really familiar with some of the guys that they were going after. But I just don't get, it's just the most disappointing thing to me is how they couldn't close on some of these transfer portal guys. Literally, we're losing both of our tackles. This is Ohio State. You are in the line to start next year. You have experience. You could start pretty easily. And, you're going to be competing against guys that were second teamers that didn't really play much. And, right. Fryer played a little bit more. You're expecting him to take one of the spots. But it's just for them to not to be able to at least bring in one big time tackle out of the ones that were out there. And there were some decent kids out there that, I thought that all right, they should be able to get one of these kids. And nah.
The Washington State kid, he got a USC and UCLA offer. It's an uphill battle. He was a California kid, but I don't know. I guess you don't want to just take a body to take a body, and I'm not sure if that's what happened here. Like we've been saying, though, he might be a guard, he might be a center. I read he gave up 8 sacks as a tackle, so not great on that. But I did watch some film, and he actually does have surprisingly really good footwork and quick feet. So it's just, you're not meant to be a tackle at 6'3", 6'2".
No. But
so hopefully, you use his depth and he can help contribute in the middle there.
I think Fryer's definitely is going to be is one of the guys.
He'll be fine. He's good.
And, I think, he's raw, but, this could be Taggara's opportunity that, he's definitely going to have a shot at that Mikowski or Milikowski, however you pronounce it. He'll have a shot at that. Yeah.
Mihalski.
Yeah. I think those are probably the 2 that are going to be competing for the other spot. And there's a couple other guys in there. They just don't have a lot of depth. And, it makes you nervous. So you're depending on one of these guys to really to really show up because, you don't got a lot of depth to do a big competition. And that's where I think that they kind of missed out trying to get one of these kids. And,
if you want to keep developing and keep being, this passing team, though, you got to start winning and getting some, 6'7" legitimate tackle bodies on your team. You got to get guys that can protect the quarterback.
And the transfer portal, people can say what they want. I know I get there's hesitation around it and stuff about team chemistry and stuff like that. And I just think he needs to get over it because in reality, that's how Michigan has pieced the last couple years, and they've been really good. That's how they pieced their offensive line together. They've gotten a lot of transfer kids. They
have 4, and then they get solid pieces, and they're real good pieces.
Yeah,
transfer in to fill in gaps of people that have left. What the hell?
Yeah,
pretty genius to me.
Yeah,
and they're doing it again this year.
Yeah, that's how I would attack it.
But
Anything else on any of the other guys that you want to talk about? I mean, it was big getting Tommy back.
yeah, I mean, getting Tommy back was huge. I thought it was kind of crazy how people were concerned with CJ Hicks playing time. I get it. CJ Hicks is a hell of a talent, but I always like my whole thing is I understand that guy might be better than Tommy in 2 years, but I don't think he's better than Tommy next year. And I'm not going to trade a mythical title 2 years down the road for a mythical title 1 year down the road. I want what gives my team the best chances to win a championship that next season. Tommy Eichenberg does. So that's who I want there. I'm happy he's back. They got to get CJ Hicks on the field more than they did. I mean, it was a crime how little he played as a freshman.
Yeah, they definitely need to play more.
They got to get him on the field.
I mean, that's Ohio State fans in a nutshell. And this is probably all fans around. I don't know. It's probably all fans around the country. But, like, I mean, how many times have, somebody announced that they come back and they get mad? And I'm not just talking about.
When Field thought about it, or they said that he was thinking about it, people were like, oh, that just creates a logjam. You're going to get people that are going to transfer out. It's like, who gives a shit if someone transfers out? You get Justin Fields for another year. That's another chance at a national title. Like, nothing against CJ, and the defense was real bad. And I don't think Justin loses to Oregon though. Yeah. I really don't. I don't know if he beats Michigan. He can. He definitely could have. It's a different type of game. Michigan has to really consider him as a running threat if things aren't working for him like they were for CJ. So, I mean, it would have been hard for Michigan to game plan against him.
You could make an argument that Ohio State's running game is better because,
for sure it was better. For sure it was better.
That they'd have a quarterback that could also run, and, that adds some stuff to it. And some of those things where you don't know if it's going to be Fields or Trey running the ball or Fields or Miyan running the ball. I mean, that's definitely, more Fields. And was Teague still there last year? He was still there. Yeah. So, I mean, you don't know. It could have been Fields or anybody who's running the ball. Like, you wouldn't know. So, I mean, that would have been different. But, I mean, we've seen this a lot with stuff. And, I mean, Buckeye fans like to think that, we like to think that it's only guys like Tough Borland that we complain about. And, yeah, I wanted to see other guys outside of Tough Borland. But I've seen a lot of guys that have been, players have had good careers, and then they decide to come back and people complain about them. And, like we don't know how good this person behind him is,
Right. I know. Like
we know how good he is.
I want the second string All-American to be playing next year if he wants to play for our team. Absolutely. Like,
yeah.
So, and I mean, I get it. Like, but I don't know. I'm not that scared of CJ Hicks transferring in the first place. Maybe that's naive on my own, but still, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I don't think you can trade 2024 for 2023. Like,
hey, like I said, they got to get guys in there in games that they're winning. They got to get guys in there a little bit more. So CJ Hicks should be playing, and like he had opportunity. He should have opportunities to play this year. You know, that's not on Tommy or Steele coming back. That's on, the coaches have to find opportunities to get them into games.
Well, CJ Hicks, hopefully he's at a point this year that even though he should have been in games that they were up 40 points last year and he still wasn't, which was ridiculous, but CJ Hicks, hopefully he's at a point this year that he can be in a game that, is tied, or maybe they're even down, that he's just a solid enough, trustworthy enough rotational guy that you can plug him in there when someone needs a breather.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to hit before we get on out of here?
A little surprised Miyan came back. Definitely can understand why he did. Gonna be interesting. Now I just, complaining about people coming back and what that's going to do to shake up a room. So I'm not complaining about Miyan coming back because he's your second best running back that's going to be on the roster. Interesting to see how that might shake up that running back room, though. But that's just interesting to see.
It will, that'll definitely be interesting. I mean, I think probably the big threat out of all of them, if any of them leave, is probably going to be Pryor, just because,
such a different play style. I hope they can keep him because
I mean, Hayden got a lot of playing time this year because of the injuries, and so you got to kind of think that going into next season, he's in front of Pryor right now, just because he's in everybody's mind right now, and So that'll be interesting. It does create a logjam in there with Miyan coming back, but they didn't bring any new ones in, so that probably helps too, that they can register prior, and they can do some stuff in there. They get another year, they can get another year out of him, and we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. Okay, but I don't got anything else. Anything else you want to touch on before we get out of here?
Nope, I think we're good.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for stopping in tonight to the Buckeye Bar. Maybe we'll do something for signing day. We'll tie the whole. I don't know if the Ohio State's even going to sign anybody in the next signing day. We'll tie the whole class up like portal guys.
Yeah, because we didn't really talk a lot about the
no,
first signing.
I don't think we didn't talk at all about the early periods.
That was the holidays, and we were getting ready for the semifinals. So
and we'll get into the basket bucks soon.
Yeah.
Probably more.
Yes.
Some more ladies basketball this year because they're actually good. So
yeah, there was some stuff that's came out about Holtman the last couple of days. A lot of disagreements about him on the internet. Some stupid people, comparing him to Thad's last 2 seasons, and that's
this is Holtman's classic lose every game in January. Man, he does this every year. So This is all part of the strategy. We're just gonna have to see how far he goes in the tournament this year if he actually makes it.
Yeah. Well, right now that's not looking that great. So
the teams he's losing to are bad.
Yeah. All righty, let's get on out.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for stopping in tonight to the Buckeye Bar. I'm John.
And I'm Mike.
OH.
IO.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Buckeye Bar Guys on Buckeye Bar Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that all notifications bell so you see when new content is added. And please remember to like and share so we can grow our audience. Don't be afraid to comment. We want to know what you're thinking, and we want to know what content to add for you guys. OH.
IO.